Yeah,
Yes.
we're going live right now. So we are now streaming on Facebook for the first time into the classroom. So let me just verify that it's going.
Says it is.
All right. Okay. All right, guys. We're gonna wait for some people to tune in here, but I wanted to introduce what it is we're doing here. So this is our broker support team right here.
Hey.
Doug. And we had this idea about how we could bring better support, more real-time support, because our biggest promise and one of the most important things for the agent community is being able to bring real-time support to the agents, like all the time, round the clock. You can get what you need. We understand that not everyone's going to tune into these little live streams here on the fly. We know that you guys are going to come back and watch them later, so that's okay. So we had this idea about the classroom. So you're in the Facebook, the 5-star classroom right now, which is a new thing. And we are going to be spending a lot of time in here as a broker support team with agents that are newer to the industry. And we have the other Facebook page called 5-Star Connect, which is really intended for you to dialogue and collaborate with your peers. And this one is much more focused on education, nuts and bolts, and connecting with your support team. So welcome to the classroom. And then this thing you're watching right now is called the 10,000. And you're probably like, what is the 10,000? Well, there's this great author named Malcolm Gladwell, and he wrote a book called Outliers, which talked about how do these people seemingly get lucky, these really skilled, talented individuals. And the whole point of his book was certainly there's some genetic makeup that makes you better or more athletic or things like this. But he really talked about how it's not so much that people are lucky, it's that people spend time and people practice and people dedicate themselves to a craft. In this case, it's real estate. And the number he came up with, which I don't think is a science necessarily, but 10,000 hours is what he believed on average it takes for you to become an expert, like top of the field expert. And we kind of had this idea that this live stream would be one of those ways to get us a half hour at a time closer to that 10,000 hour mark. So we're gonna put these live streams out every week, and hopefully we're gonna just bring some cool topics and talk about things that are happening and ways where we can help people who are newer bring some different information and knowledge to the table. So with all of that said, just wanted to, why don't we do a really quick intro? You guys will start with, we'll go Kim, Tracy, Doug, and you guys can introduce yourself, how long you've been with 5-Star, and what market you basically spend time in.
All right, I'm Kim Anderson. I have been with 5-Star a little over 3.5 years. I am the broker support in the greater Kalamazoo area. Why that's important to you is one of the things is we have a little bit different we do have a completely different contract versus the majority who uses the West Michigan Regional. But I also am the director of education, and I'm well trained on the West Michigan Regional, which all of us kind of lap over into because that's our greatest market. So yeah, I'm here to answer your questions, help you with education. I always say save my cell phone number and call me, anytime, and I'm here to help you.
And Kim, you are also the director of education here?
Yeah, director of education. Oh, and we have classes every Tuesday, 10 a.m. in GCAR, and then 2 p.m. to 3:30 for West Michigan Regional. I realize some of you work. I'm more than happy to set a Zoom with you at a different time that works for you. We do a few little crash courses, catch up. I'll jump on Zoom with you, say, how can I help you most today? And you'll give me your 5-6 need to know, get in flex, dot loop, whatever that is. And so, so we go along with whatever your need is and do our very best to help you. Yep.
Awesome. All right, Tracy.
Hey, I'm Tracy Johnson, and I was a new realtor just like you, just 9 short years ago. So I understand the learning curve in this. I work in both Southeast Michigan and in Northern Michigan. I'm a member of GMAR in the Metro Detroit area, and I'm also a member of TAR, which is now the new Aspire North. So I am getting to know all of you one by one, helping you through your new deals, understanding real estate transactions, and helping you become the pro in your craft.
Sweet. All right, Dougie.
And I'm the last one. I'm the last one. Good morning, everybody. Well, hey, Doug Hale from the West Michigan Lakeshore area. So I'm up and down the Lakeshore. That's kind of my primary area, although I've been spilling over folks into Grand Rapids and some of the areas too, to be able to answer some questions and come alongside for support. Believe it or not, I don't look that old, but I've been doing this for 20 years, folks. Amazing, right? Amazing. Yeah. But I've been with 5 Star for the last 6.5 months. Boy, what an amazing place to be, simply because of, well, there's a lot of different reasons, but for me, it's been about the education piece. It's about the support piece. And I'm telling you one thing, you're in the right place. So I'm anxious to have you learn, again, ask questions. I feel like, Kim, when I say call me anytime, but I mean that. Call me anytime, please.
Awesome.
Paul?
Thank you. So, the one of the things that we're seeing right now, let's just jump into a quick topic. So next week, so really quickly here, guys, before we jump into this topic, we're thinking like we want to talk about things like, I started thinking about when I was a younger agent in the business in 2006, and it was old school. Facebook was like 1 year old at the time, believe it or not. They didn't even have Facebook Live back then. This was all new. And I was like, how did we learn? How did we learn all this stuff? And back then, you really were, a lot of agents were in office, around office, walking down the hallways, whatever might happen, right? But you learn through osmosis, almost like water cooler talk. You'd walk into the kitchen, you'd hear about somebody having an issue with an easement. You'd walk down the hallway and someone had an issue with this thing over here, and you learned through other people's issues and other people's problems. And then when it was your turn to have a problem, people got to learn from you. And so the idea was, how do we create this kind of water cooler talk moment where we can talk through easements, EMDs, horror stories, keys getting lost, houses being broken into, all the things that we've dealt with. So we're going to pick like really random topics, but very, very real topics that we deal with on a daily basis that aren't maybe as textbook, but more situational, things like this. And we're just going to openly talk about them. So one of the things we want to talk about right now that we're all dealing with, and Vanessa Bolt's posting in the classroom right now, and she's dealing with it in this moment, is, holy cow, this house looks like it's overpriced by $30,000. I can't find any comparables that look like they match this thing. What do I do? And so we started having this conversation. She just posted about 10 seconds ago and said, well, it's under contract.
Not with her.
And you're like, holy cow, I thought for sure this property was overpriced because it was 30 grand higher. This home was way better. And we're all struggling with this insane speed of the market. Right? Insane speed of the market. Greg uses a term called velocity. And you have intensity, you have velocity. We're still trying to define exactly what those things are. But, we thought it was crazy last year. We thought it was crazy the year before. We've thought it was crazy since 2012. And every year it got incrementally more intense in terms of being a seller's market. So how does someone like Vanessa Bolt advise her clients compete for that listing when you have all these unknowns about, is this thing overpriced? Is it not overpriced? It's moving so fast. Well, what's your first step, guys? Who wants to know
that it's not going to matter what you write at. Someone's going to write the number. And the hard part is what kind of advice we offer to our clients, knowing that the house is so overpriced, right? So that's the first thing you just have to know.
And one of the things I tell my clients are, give it your absolute best, everything you've got. Whatever, it's always about risk. How much risk are you willing to take? How bad do you want this home? And we don't want to push them into making a decision that they're going to regret later, but you absolutely have to bring your A game, and we're going to put in everything we can. And then you just have to step back and wait. I mean, just give it everything you've got. I think that's the best advice that we can,
And Kim, I'm echoing what you said. I always tell people to put their best foot forward, because if this is a house that you absolutely want to go after, you have to go after that house. There's no two ways about that. So,
and there is no counteroffer, right? We used to be able to play a little game and then we go back and forth and lay in the middle. That doesn't even exist anymore.
right.
No, there's not even an opportunity to go back and see the house a second time.
Right.
Yep.
Very true. And I know this is all right. So what do you do? What do you do when your buyer says, all right, Doug, I think this is overpriced, or is this overpriced? Tell me if this is overpriced. Should I write for 230? Should I write for 240? It's listed at well, it's listed at 205. I think it's worth 170. What should I do here? How do you even begin to give them direction?
Well, that's the interesting thing is we used to say that we knew how to price homes, and yet what we do see happening today is exactly what you just said, Paul. And that's again, you want to obviously be there for your buyer. You want to educate your buyer through these whole things of what's going on. But again, I'm going to go back to what I just said, Kim. If we really want this house, we have to find ways inside of that purchase agreement, because there's a lot of times that you can't even talk to the seller. You're talking through the seller's agent, right? So what are you going to do outside of that to make your offer stand out to other, to your seller? And again, that's the toughest thing, because again, we hear the terms this day and age, the appraisal gap guarantees, and we talk about waiving inspections and things like that. And again, this is where that education piece comes in, Kim, in terms of educating your buyer, those things that are important. I'll let you take the education piece from there, but I don't know if I answered the question, Paul, or not. But
yeah, well, I don't think there's a single answer. That's kind of the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like I kind of look at it like talking. I mean, I actually have a couple of good friends of mine that were looking this past weekend, and we went and saw a house, and they were like, this is right at the top of our budget. We love it, and I was like, they were like, but we think it's overpriced. It was over here on Auburn, here in Easttown. I think it was priced at $370, and it probably went for like $425. There was another one, and so yeah, like on paper they appear overpriced.
Yeah.
But I think at this moment we have to advise our clients that these prices are jumping very quickly. And so what I do, and I was kind of advising to Vanessa Bolt to try and get some of a gauge, is I'll call the realtor and I'll say really casually, like, hey, how's it going? Has it been crazy? And if they go, yeah, it's been insane. Like they tell me I had so many offers. I'm like, wow. So like, have you been collecting offers, or how's that going? If they say, yeah, I've got 4 offers on the table.
Yep.
Someone tells me that, I know for sure we're at the asking price.
Yep.
If it's within 24 to 48 hours and you have 4 offers on the table,
Yep.
you know that somebody's like, no one's coming in lowballing right now, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So I automatically know it doesn't matter what I think of the price anymore.
Yep.
That no longer matters, because at this point I'm here advising my client saying, hey, you know what, you're gonna have to come in between on this one with Vanessa Bolt, maybe you have to come in between 200 and 235. I don't know exactly where. As Doug, you just said, put your best foot forward.
Yep.
But I think the most important thing that we're discussing here is being open with them, talking about risks, pros and cons. How do you prep someone, Tracy, to go 30K over asking? How do you make them feel okay about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, at the end of the day, the one thing I was going to say about what you just said also was the important thing we have to realize is that when we're working with the seller's agent, they're really there to help us. And so don't be afraid to make that call to the listing agent to ask them to enter into the conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the tips in knowing how to advise your client come from the conversation you have with the listing agent. For instance, today, I just had a conversation with the listing agent because I can't find a time, and they're not blocked off, but she said, no, they're all booked. The house went on the market, and with 3 hours, we had 47 showings booked. They're booked all the way till this day, and blah, blah, blah. And I expect to have this many offers. And so that sort of sets the expectation with me when I go back to my client, when I know they have interest. And to really say to them, and I use this language all the time, I said, I just give advice, but at the end of the day, you give direction.
Yeah.
And when we leave the client in charge of everything, it's the best place to begin. So they don't feel like I'm forcing them or telling them how they should respond to the information that I'm couriering back from the seller's agent. So when you help them begin to realize they're in a position of their own power, they make their own decisions, then I'm just offering advice. And so at the end of the day, we talk about the tools that are in our toolbox to win. We know that when there's 47 showings within the first 3 hours, we know there's going to be a lot of offers. So as Paul indicated, starting at asking price, that's just not going to get the job done. Okay.
Right.
So we'll talk about some of those kinds of things. We'll talk about some brokers are saying no appraisal guarantee or no escalation clauses. We don't want to talk about those. We don't like them. Give us your highest and best offer from the get-go.
Yep.
So educate your clients on what it means, what an appraisal guarantee is, what an escalation clause is. At the end of the day, you just got to get in the game. You've got to start writing offers so that they emotionally know what that feels like to write an offer and to wait. So
can I say 2 things? I just wanted to echo what Paul was just talking about too. Again, I had one over in Grand Rapids yesterday, Paul, and it was nice because I picked up the phone. It was a Coldwell Banker agent. Again, I was having this great conversation about showings and offers, and boy, did I learn a lot in the first probably minute of that phone call. So I could go back to my client. Again, we're the pros, right, Trace? So again, making sure that we know a lot about what's going on with that property long before we put a pen to paper and write a purchase agreement. So I agree with what you just said, Paul. That
Yeah.
call is essential.
I think
Question,
Kim.
Tracy, how are you overcoming, you mentioned in the very beginning, you couldn't even get in because they were,
Right.
so how'd you overcome that?
Well, what it does is it sets the expectation to the client that when the house comes on the market, if you like it, our response is almost immediate because within 3 hours, 47 showings. So we already know we can't see this house till late Friday or early Saturday. And she's already told me after Sunday at 12, we're done. Like we already know we're not going to need a show anymore. So again, it's education. Those calls, those early conversations help set up the expectation for what this relationship between the buyer's agent and the buyer is going to look like.
Yep. I do think that one of the most, and again, like Doug, I'm gonna kind of echo on what Doug just said a second ago here. That call to that listing agent, it does a lot of things. One, it gets you a relationship with them where you're having a conversation, especially if you come across, you really want to get nice with them. You really want to be like, hey, I'm an easy person to talk to, easy person to work with, right? Because what they're looking for in that transaction right now, prices are maximized, guys. We're pushing every single price right to the max.
Yep.
Every single time. So it's obviously price plays a role, but what they're looking for too is how do we take the most risk off the table for the seller? And again, you as an agent have to present your client with all the pros and cons of all the ways you can negotiate. Okay. I'm not telling you to walk in there and basically, waive everything automatically. I'm saying you have to have that conversation, but know what the seller's agent is looking for. The seller's agent is looking for, how do I give my client a slam dunk? How do we get rid of any sort of obstacles? Who's going to be the easiest to work with? What offer looks like it's going to be the smoothest? Whose lender do I like the best? Things all play a role in that seller's agent and that seller coming to a decision on whose offer is best.
Right.
So that first initial conversation is huge. They will share with you a lot more information than you think they will if you just let them talk.
And they did. And they did. And they did.
And I will ask direct questions. How many offers do you have? I have an FHA buyer. Do I even have a chance? Nope. I've got, 5 offers. They're all well above asking price, at least by 10,000. If you ask the questions, they'll tell you. Remember, their goal is to win for their seller.
Yep.
And so I will ask those questions. And which also brings us to another question. How do we advise them on price? One of the first things I say is I have no crystal ball, right? We don't know. We don't know what the market's going to do. And it's once again, back to what Tracy said, it's your decision on how much risk you want to take and how much you want to overpay. What I hear from some buyers is we're going to stay here long enough. It's like the stock market. If we wait long enough, it will come back.
Yeah. This market is going to shift.
Yeah. I have a client I've been working with since May 7th, which was the day the governor lifted the pause last year. And he just can't make a decision, right? And he's written offers, but they're never high enough. They're never with a good guarantee. He's a conventional buyer, but at the end of the day, he has been waiting a year. In a year, the market has moved up how much?
Yeah, at least
25%, right? So at the end of the day, there's a lot of money that was really left on the table because he was unwilling to take risk.
This conversation was happening in 2012 when the market first flipped. I remember when the market flipped and I would get buyers within $5,000 of the asking price. And they're going, I'm walking. These sellers are greedy. I'll wait till the market shifts and comes back down. That property from 2012 is worth 150% more than it was in 2012. So anyways, we have a good question here. The question is, and it's from, it's from Christine Hollerberger. She says, what kind of information are we allowed to share when a buyer's agent calls us as a listing agent? So this is a really interesting question because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what agents can and can't say and what they're allowed to say or hypothetically allowed to say. Yeah. So I know the answer.
I know the answer. Who
else
knows the answer?
Hit it, Kim.
So I'm going to say the answer and then we can talk about some nuances here. So first and foremost, you are not allowed to say anything that your seller does not want you to say.
Right. Everything your seller gives you permission, you can say,
Yes. And
I
so
want 50,000 over. Will you give it to me?
as simple as, has your seller authorized you to share this information? Then
Yep.
you can share it. For example, Kim, if you called me and said, Paul, I've got an amazing buyer, cash. You tell me what number we have to go to and they will write it right now and we'll lock this thing up. Some realtors would say, oh, you know what? I really can't share that with you. I can't tell you that information. Now, hold on a second here. That's one, not true.
Right.
I can tell you that information if I get permission from my seller.
Exactly.
And my
Exactly.
seller has hired me to do what?
Get them the highest and best price.
Highest and best price out of their house. Yep.
And if,
Yep.
and if calling them to get permission to share a price with this person is going to get them the highest and best because they're willing to do whatever it takes. They're coming in from New York and they're going to waive every single thing possible and write cash, close in 3 days. If I tell them what number they have to write at, that is in my client's best interest, is it not?
It is.
Mhm, absolutely.
So the truth is there's, as long as you're authorized buyer or seller to share it, then you can. Otherwise, you literally can't tell anyone anything that's already advertised. Like you can, like for example, here's a good question too, in the same vein. Do you have to tell me if you have other offers? If I call you, Kim, and I say, hey, Kim, do you have offers on this house?
I believe ethically, we have to always be fair and honest. So I'm going to say, yes, I do. Honestly, I don't know the exact answer,
And this-
but I know.
I want to.
Pros, pros all across the board do not know what the
Right.
answer to this question is.
Yeah.
The answer is you do not have to tell them anything.
Okay.
I mean, truly you don't.
Well, I guess unless my seller tells me I can, so right there, you can say, no, my seller hasn't authorized me to share that.
Well,
But
and
is it in their best interest, right?
I'm just sharing with you, there's a lot of misunderstandings in the market where agents, it's kind of like house rules. Where like, we all know how to play euchre, but then you go to someone else's house and there's like this house rule and you're like, what's this
Yeah.
house rule?
And the rule changed. And the rule
Yeah.
changed.
Realtors kind of create their own rules where like, you have to tell me if I have multiple offers. The truth is that we don't.
Right.
The truth is that we do, but I'm just telling you that like legally speaking, I don't. And so I think what's most important is really understanding that what you do and don't have to do. Is it in your best interest for your clients to say, yes, I have multiple offers, you have to beat all these other offers to win? Yeah, I think so. That's probably in your client's best interest to tell people that, but maybe not in every case. I don't know.
Yeah.
And one thing I was going to bring up regarding Vanessa, I've worked with her through several offers. And here's the thing that she's learning is sometimes, as much as we don't like it, it does help when they lose, because maybe the buyer isn't taking our best advice. And as they lose, her offers are getting better, because once they lose, they decide the next time maybe to take a little more risk and a little more risk. And their offers are getting stronger and stronger. And hopefully one of these days she's going to text me and say, I won one.
It's very
Well,
true.
Yeah, and it's also why it's important to call the listing agent after you lost. And we're seeing
Yeah.
this more. Even one of our agents shared her little sheet with us.
Yeah.
By us calling the listing agent when our client loses, we're helping educate them about the tools that were used on the house that they loved and they wanted to call it their own. And so those tools will help our client know how to better position themselves
Yeah.
to write a better offer that perhaps might help them win the next time.
Okay, so one of the things that's always interesting to me, and Paul, you said it best about sellers. I've always said to people, especially the folks that you're in the business 1-2 years, you're saying to yourself, what can I say? What can I say? Just imagine your seller sitting right next to you, listening to every word that comes out of your mouth when you're
Yeah.
talking to other people. Again, knowing full well, and again, it might be something that's in your mind, but just think of everything that comes out of your mouth needs to be that your seller's saying, yes, it's okay to share. Okay. Because once you start to say some things that would kind of go a little left or a little bit right, all of a sudden you're going to say, man, I got to think of my best interest. And my best interest is obviously the seller who's sitting right beside me. They're not really sitting there, but they are. So those are the things that I always kind of, when you get into the heat of the conversation with buyers agents about different things, just remember that. And again, I don't know what it is, but I can't get it out of my head. It's the truth.
And one thing you could do when you're first having that listing appointment, you're talking through, okay, so guys, here's what it's going to look like when we go live. We're going to get a lot of interest, hopefully. Then we're gonna have some offers. It's gonna be kind of a zoo. Why don't you guys move out of the house? And hey, by the way, guys, we're gonna probably get a lot of calls from agents looking for some inside track. Okay. I want to have a conversation with you guys about how we can best position you when they call me, how I can best negotiate on your behalf to help drive that price up and get you the best terms possible. Are you guys cool if I do X, Y, and Z and I try and get you the best price possible and the best terms possible by having these conversations? And they'll probably almost every time say, yeah, we totally trust you to have those conversations and look out for our best interest.
Yeah, that was good advice for Christine, who we know has a new listing coming up. So.
Does, yeah. So let's talk about what if we waive inspections? What if we waive the survey? What are our next steps to protect myself as an agent, to protect 5-star?
Yep.
If they make decisions that that are risky, where do we go from there?
Yep.
How do we do that? Anybody want to share?
Well, this is where 5-star has developed the pre-offer addendum to help sort of minimize the risk, because we know that at the end of the day, when we call the listing agent and he tells us or she tells us the winning offer was the offer that waived inspections and, you know, it was cash and whatever the terms were. The pre-offer addendum, which I think you can speak to, Kim, I think you've got it in front of you, but sort of helps the agents in a series of questions and initials, shows that we have taken diligence to help educate the buyer on the risks that they were willing to take.
Yep. So you see, I just shared my screen. If you go into dotloop, go over to the left where all the forms are, and then you choose 5-star company forms and then search. In order to find it, you have to put in FSRE pre-offer addendum. Otherwise it won't come up, but it is in there. If you search pre-offer, it'll say it's not there. So this is a form that Greg and Paul had created so that we had something in writing called a hold harmless. So basically what this form does is it walks you through your name, the buyer's name, the offer date, the address, and it highlights the main bullet points of the contract. The other thing the reason this is really good for agents is this is kind of a summary. If you're wondering how to explain the West Michigan Regional Purchase Agreement, we have about 9 different topics here that are highlighted that are very, very important. And so there's 3 under financing. Basically talks about the basics about, do you understand that you'll need earnest money? And then that gives you the opportunity to share, here's what an earnest money is. It does come back to you at closing as a credit. It helps you walk through the conversation. That's why I love to have new agents use this. And then it talks about, do you need help with closing costs? We know in this market, you probably won't win if your buyer needs closing costs, but there are some offers where that will work. And that's here. And then it talks about, do you understand that you'll want to or need to apply for a mortgage according to the contract in a couple days? So I'm not going to go through all of this, but it goes through financing. And here's where the property related contingencies are that we have advised you to get as many inspections as possible. And they're going to initial this so that if they waive them, the buyer understands that we advise you not to do it, but in order to win, you're choosing to do it. Yep. So
this is good because even simple things like when we draft up an offer and we get an offer accepted. I've had this happen before. And then so we get this offer accepted. They go, oh, hey, I was talking, we're all in it. We're accepted. This thing's sealed and inked, right?
Yep.
And then 2 days later, my buyer calls and says, hey, my lender was telling me that I was supposed to get closing cost concessions.
yes,
And I'm like,
exactly.
what? And all of a sudden we're too late now, right? Because this thing's done. And then so if Kim, you showed me on this document up here, it says up at the very top, it says, do you need closing cost concessions?
Right.
If you go through this prior to writing that offer and make sure you discuss, this basically takes some of the biggest bullet point items in the contract and makes sure that these buyers fully understand what they're doing and signing.
Yep. So there's 2 things out there that I really like as well. One is possession and the other is home warranty. I'll give you 2 quick examples. One is, you ever had a buyer, you tell them about the home warranty, they decide because we want to win, we're not going to negotiate that. 6 months later, the furnace goes out and they call you, hey, Kim, just wanted to give you a call. My furnace quit working. And I was talking to my friend Sally and she bought a house and she got a home warranty. Did I get one?
Yeah.
So Then you're like, so this.
Or Kim, it goes like this, because if it gets a little bit, if it goes sideways, you go, Kim, why didn't you get one for me?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And
Right.
then the other one is possession. When it comes to possession, we recommend that you negotiate, which we know we're not going to win, but we recommend you put some money into escrow account for any damages, because often we're giving them 2 weeks, 30 days afterwards to stay in the homes because that's the seller position they want to be in, right? They want to stay for a little bit. So when we're winning, or when we want to win, this doesn't matter. Oh yeah, I'll waive it. I don't mind. I don't need any money in escrow. And then 31 days later, you take possession and they've removed things, the TV mounts from the walls, and there's big holes and there's damages. And all of a sudden, the thought of winning isn't as important as now having somebody fix the damage to the home.
Yep.
So we'll review this a little bit further, but at the end, there is a hold harmless. So this will help you in explaining your contract and making sure that you get the main bullet points to help protect 5-star, protect yourself regarding all these different decisions that buyers are forced to make right now.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So let me figure out how to stop sharing. So if you can't find it, give us a call, but it is in .loop. Yep.
Well,
So,
we're 30 minutes into our 10,000 hours, guys.
all right.
Wow.
Hey.
We got a couple more to go here.
I can tell you, I'm looking forward to meeting with you every week. Here's one of the things we face is agents will
Absolutely.
come through our virtual classroom. If you don't know about it, we have 10 classes, 5 on buyers, 5 on sellers. We talk about listing appointments, buyer consultations, writing contracts. And then by the time we're through the 10, typically, maybe you have business, maybe you don't. A lot of times you don't. And then, some of our agents have been there, they go through all 10 of them, and then they get busy, but they don't want to really stop in class again because they've already been through that with us, right? So this space every week is like that water cooler where you can continue to hop in, be mentored, ask questions. It's a safe place. It's all about education. The difference between Connect and Classroom is Connect is exactly that. We chat, we connect, we help each other, we talk, we share, I need this, where Classroom is very educational driven. And you can come in here and learn and talk to us. And so each week when we're on here, I'd love to stop a few minutes early in the half an hour, and we'll take some questions and just have that water cooler here from the pros. And hopefully Paul will pop in, maybe Greg will pop in, maybe we'll get Don to pop in. And bring some of your favorite people in here to help us. So I'm really excited about this launch. I think it's an amazing tool to help agents.
Something that selfishly I say, gosh, if I would have had this tool in the first year that I was in real estate, or first 2 years in real estate,
And they did.
my word, as a building block, where would my career be in real estate?
Question.
Yep.
So go ahead.
No, that's good, guys. I want to thank everybody for being here. You three are absolutely amazing, and the support you're giving every day is awesome. So if people don't know how to reach you guys, do we have somewhere on this page how they get in touch with you? Like by phone? Do we have our phones listed there?
Yeah, I'll look really quick. I don't know, but if you're looking for me, 248-361-7295. It's Tracy, T-R-A-C-Y Johnson. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'm going to see whether or not.
I think what we do is we'll pin a post at the top, which how to directly reach out. One thing, guys, that I think is going to be really fun too going forward here is the questions that we get asked on this page. Even if we have to have that conversation off, if it's a really complex topic or whatever, we want to have a phone call conversation. It'd be fun if we could summarize the end conversation here, so everyone can learn through osmosis through that water cooler talk. So we'll try and do that as questions come in. Maybe even ask your question here, or we can summarize questions we were asked during the week. We'll have fun doing that. But this is going to be a great space, and this is your team here, and we're excited. So we're at 35 minutes, guys. If there's anything else you guys want to add, feel free. Otherwise, we'll sign off, and we'll see you guys for the second half hour of our 10,000 hours next week.
That sounds great. Thanks,
Next
Paul.
Thursday. Next Thursday,
Thanks,
Thursday.
Tune in. See you
Thanks,
guys.
Paul. Thanks.